Coach, your thoughts on tonight's performance?
Well, I think it's an easy one to see, a game of two very different halves and probably lost in the space of, first 10 minutes of the second period. I thought in the opening exchanges we showed a real good attitude, positive front foot display, a terrific goal from Walker from a dead ball, gives us a really nice platform. And really and truly, the chat at half-time was about getting through the next 10 minutes. Kansas, understandably, we're going to come out with a renewed vigour and energy. And to not make it through that 10 minutes was always going to be tough. And it was compounded, of course, with the sending off, which is, out of character for Alistair, but a massive learning curve for a young player who's been incredibly good for us. The winning goal was worthy of any match winner. And, from that point, it was always going to be extremely difficult to get back in it.
All right, we will now open the floor for questions, and we will begin with Tim Sullivan from For Club and Country.
Gary, you took Walker off in the second half. Was that just wanting to get some fresh bodies in there? Did he suffer a knock during the game?
We're again, like a lot of teams, Tim, Walker's been playing with a problem. I wanted to make sure that problem didn't become an issue that we lose him for a prolonged period. He's a warrior of an individual, and he was touch and go even in the warm-up. So to get a good hour out of him was, I felt, as good as it was going to get without pushing too far. And the same can be said for Abu. The circumstances that Abu's worked under, injury, 20 minutes only. And the pair of them, I spoke to them before the game today, and they couldn't have been more supportive and keen to try and give whatever they could for the team. And for the pair of them, did a wonderful job.
Greg Hills with the Tennessean.
Gary, in relation to the squad and to the substitutions, obviously without Abu, there really wasn't an opportunity to get in a natural striker out there. Can you tell me, was Yonder Khadij just not necessarily match fit yet to travel with the squad? Was there a reason why you didn't think that he was prepared to play at all tonight?
I don't think it's a case of he's not prepared to play. The player's desperately keen to show what he's about, but with a quarantine period and such a period of lack of playing time. I think his last game was in March, Drake. So maybe I'm being overcautious with the lad, but I want to make sure that he's in the right place. And to be quite frank, it was always going to be a push for this one. His quarantine finished, I think it was Thursday or Friday, and to have little to no time with a group was always going to be a bit of a difficulty. But he's moving forward nicely, so he's available for us, as I said in the media a couple of days ago. But it's just at the point now that I feel is the right moment.
Tim Sullivan with a follow-up question.
Gary, how did you assess Randall's performance? It seemed like he was cleaner on the ball and a little bit more active going forward a little bit than we've seen from him in the last few games.
I thought he was extremely bright. He showed plenty of energy. In many ways, I think he was inspired by his role and his performance during midweek. He enjoyed playing in that more central role. The plan was at some point to get him back into that pocket and, hopefully show the same sort of signs. But I've got to say, look, I'm disappointed that we've got beat. After being 1-0 up, that 10 minutes after half-time will be something that, I myself and the group won't forget. But we'll learn an awful lot from that. Let's not forget that this is still a young group and we've got used to grinding out results. As far as decisions, experience, Alistair will learn bundles, as I said a minute ago, from that rash challenge. and he'll be much, much better for it. And I tell you this, the group have shown incredible spirit and resolve over the last couple of games. And to go down to 10 men here against a team that I think we'd all agree have some tremendously talented players, even though they're missing one or two as well. There's a reason that they're constantly in the playoffs and competing for silverware. I thought they showed great character. I mean, you know, I couldn't ask for any more from a group of individuals, down a man, you know, quickly a goal down. It's not easy at all. And I thought they showed tremendous resolve. And I'm delighted for the way that every single player on the field played.
We have a question from Ben Wright with Broadway Sports.
Yeah, Gary, you've talked a little bit about the red card for Alistair Johnston. How do you, as the manager, just help him bounce back from that and be ready to go when he's available without overthinking that?
Yeah, listen, he's absolutely sunk in the locker room there. You know, he's a young man whose world has risen to great heights in a very short period of time. And he's played and he's conducted himself with a very, very level head. He's a hard-working boy, and at heart, he's all about making himself better and keeping his feet firmly on the ground. I honestly think today, and it's the first time I've seen it, their wide player Gerso caused him some serious problems in the first half. And he'll look back on that video and he'll learn an awful lot from it against a very good player with very different qualities to maybe he's run into before. And I do think that maybe one or two of the decisions he made in the second half leading into the sending off may well have been associated with the difficulties he'd had in the first half. He looked frustrated. It's a very, very rash and wild challenge. It's unnecessary. And I bet you he doesn't do that again in his career.
Trey Hills with a follow-up question.
Yeah, Gary, you've alluded to it in a little bit in terms of just really a pacey winger in Gerso, and he was creating problems, creating chances in spurts tonight. But it seems as if in the past couple of games, Nashville has gone up against guys like Gerso. Obviously, Finlay from Minnesota last week, he was a pacey guy who was obviously pressing and trying to create some chances for his side. Lassiter and Quintero against Houston. There's a lot of wingers that not only Alistair, but Dan Lovitz as well are coming up against who are very pacey. They're definitely trying to create some problems. What's the answer, do you think, or what's the solution to probably dealing with these guys better, obviously, as you face Houston coming up on Wednesday?
Well, there's a couple of things here, Drake. The first one is this is our third game in the space of, 8 days? So, you know, we're on our second away trip. The guys are going to be leggy and fatigued. So there's point number one. Point number two is that Alistair and Daniel, when they've run into those other opponents, have worked out exactly what's needed or have had the opportunity to work with others to get the job done. And if you look over the other side of the field as well, Johnny Russell creates the first goal. You know, Gerso is involved probably mentally in getting Alistair sent off. Their wide players were terrific today. They made a difference. So it's a combination of good individual play, and both of our guys are capable of it. To your point, they've produced before, and away from home, it's getting the right balance between, you know, committing players to attack and also making sure that they help their fullback wherever and whenever they can. And listen, this is partly my job as well. You know, how do we bridge that gap between being one of the most difficult teams in the league to play against defensively, but also releasing players, by the way, at a very, very difficult time when we have few forwards fit and available? How do I get more out of the guys that are in there? How can I release them to give us more going forward? And I'd like to think that you wouldn't be too critical about our first half display. I think when I looked at shots on target and otherwise, we just nudged it in the first half away from home and we go in a goal up. For me, it's a great first half performance. The game, as I've already said, was really turned on its head with a sending off. Even a goal, even the equaliser. 11 men on the field. Given what we saw with the 10, you'd back us to get something out of this, surely.
Before we let you go, Coach, 2 more questions. Today you gave the opportunity to Jack Maher to make his debut. Despite short, what do you think of his performance?
I thought it was terrific. We're looking at, certainly over the last half a dozen or more games, one of the best central defensive pairings, I believe, in the league. And it's always going to be tough for Jack and any of those other guys that are trying to find their way into that group. With his first 15 minutes or more in the game, I thought Jack showed us some of the qualities and signs that we can look forward to in the future. And, it's certainly my job to give him the right opportunity and platform to keep that development going. Centre-backs, in my mind, invariably take a little bit longer to mature and to find their feet, given the position and the pressures that they come under. But Jack, again, is a very focused, hard-working and good professional. And I've seen all the signs that I believe will see him in the group in the very near future for this team.
Finally, since we won't have the opportunity to chat with you before facing Houston, how do you switch the morale and prepare for that game?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think the morale is a huge problem with this group. We get beat today under extreme circumstances against a very, very good team. Wednesday's game will come around quickly. I think the challenge for all of us will be recovery, making sure that, we have the right combination of fresh legs and obviously rest to get a very difficult job done again. Houston are renowned for having a terrific home record. And as I think Drake mentioned there, their front line, when on form, is one of the most, devastating in the league. So it's not going to be easy. 3 out of 4 away games we always looked at and knew that it was going to be one of the toughest stretches in our season. Somehow, some way, we've got to stay in the race and, give ourselves an opportunity when we go back home and take advantage of that.
Tell us, how was your debut today despite the result?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the culture that Gary's created is that everywhere we go, we should be expecting to get a result, whether it's a draw, whether it's 3 points. I think that's something that, talking about the culture that Gary's created, that's something that we expect each and every day. So the result, needless to say, one just didn't fall our way today. But despite that, I think that getting my debut is something that I'll surely remember for the rest of my life. Hopefully first of many here for Nashville, and hopefully able to wear the gold for years to come.
Thank you, Jack. We will now open the floor for questions, and we will begin with one from Tim Sullivan from For Club and Country.
Jack, obviously making your debut today, did you get specific advice from maybe Alistair, who's obviously done that as a rookie this year, or some of the more veteran guys who have gone through this process in the past?
Absolutely. I think Alistair and I talk about it probably each and every day, just little things, little tendencies, especially playing with guys like Dave Romney, Jaleel Anibaba, Walker Zimmerman. Guys have certain tendencies and stuff like that. And so he's my roommate and someone that has done extremely well so far in his young career. So we've been talking about it a lot, and he's been someone that I've been able to look up to for a young rookie with Nashville.
All right. Are there any other questions? We have one more from Tim.
Jack, when you come into the game, it's obviously not the easiest situation to come into, given the red card situation and all that. What is your mindset coming in, especially knowing that your debut is in kind of these adverse circumstances?
Yeah, I think it's something that, regardless of the opportunity that I get, I'm going to go on and give it my best. I think that the situation that we had with the red card certainly altered how you would normally play. But I mean, just being able to come in and play next to guys like Jaleel Bob, Dave Romney, Joe Willis, Eric Miller, Tex McCarty. I mean, these guys are MLS vets to say the least, and have had a very successful career up until now. So for me, just being able to go in and play next to them, it creates a very smooth pathway for me.